It's time for Walk a Little to be big at left tackle for Jacksonville down the stretch. I'll talk all about that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, good people? Thank you for joining me here on Locked On Jaguars. We're at your team every day. I am your host, Tony Wiggins, and we thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the app stores. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On. That's all caps, Locked On in the game store. What is going on, y'all? We got to remind you that we're free on all platforms too. I had to put that in there. I don't want that. I want y'all to forget that. You ain't paying for nothing around here, Jack. It's all free. We're going to talk a little Walk a Little today. I'm going to confess that if it was up to me, Walk a Little wouldn't be on the team anymore. I would have traded him for a wide receiver. And we would be regretting that right now. So I will transparently admit when I am wrong. Well, not necessarily wrong, but it's unfortunate that someone gets hurt. Injuries are part of the game. But fortunate to have him right now. I'll talk about what I saw from his performance the other day against the Dallas Cowboys when he was one-on-one with Michael Parsons when the Jags were making their run to tie the game and to win the game in overtime. We'll talk about the long and short-term answers or questions that might arise at the left tackle or right tackle position. Because sometimes we talked about things in the past, how things might play out, and this is playing out in a certain way that could be telling down the stretch. It's like putting a mirror up, and you're going to see one thing or the other. Let me fix my wig here. So you're going to see one thing or the other, and it's just going to give you some answers, but it's a good problem to have if you're Jacksonville. In the third segment, I'll talk about why I'd rather face the starting quarterback for the New York Jets as opposed to the backup quarterback. And at this point, I don't know who the backup quarterback is, so I'll just tell you, Zack Wilson, I would rather see him than see Mike White come this Thursday in such a critical game. But let's get into Walk a Little. As you know, Cam Robinson is out for the remainder of the season, most likely with a meniscus injury to his knee. Too bad for him, too bad for the team. For them to be making a run like this, the dudes that's been here the whole time when the team has been bad, I know those guys want to be here and want to be participating and playing. So too bad for Cam and too bad for the Jaguars, because now their depth is really going to come into play if they have another injury at tackle and they don't have another Walker Little behind Walker Little or Jawan Taylor. And Jawan Taylor even got banged up the other day, but he came back into the game and he gutted it out, which is one of the reasons I think when you had guys who were hurting out there playing, those guys really play for each other, and that's a very, very good thing. And you guys should be really, really happy that your team. You don't ever want to have injuries, but you always have an opportunity to see how your team is going to respond to said injuries. And I think the Jaguars responded very, very well. Even Travis Etienne, I mentioned this yesterday. Even Travis Etienne was questionable. They announced it. I don't know if you guys will take it behind the business a little bit. When you're in the press box, it's not quiet. Okay. But everything is about every single play, because behind the veil here, guys are live tweeting, guys on their laptop, people have binoculars. So it's not like when you're doing this from a media perspective that you're sitting back, drinking your drink and watching the game and having fun. And it's a play-by-play work, okay? And every single thing that happens, there's a guy that I don't know if he works for the Jaguars or if he works for the NFL. Every single thing that happens, like as soon as they break the huddle, this is what we hear. One dude going left to right, Jags on the 36-yard line, shotgun formation, hand off to the right to number one, tackle, gain of 3 to the 40, half tackle to number 56, the other half to number 31. And then you go, who's the tackle? And then somebody yells 53 and 31, and someone goes, how many yards did he get? I think he's to the 40. It's 2nd and 7. And then if somebody gets hurt earlier, you'll hear somebody go, attention, Jaguars left tackle Cam Robinson has been ruled questionable with a knee injury. So it's constant. It's like going, like you're not just sitting there chilling, right? So I told you that to tell you this. Travis Etienne was announced. The guy goes, excuse me, for attention in the press box. This is the guy on the microphone now. He goes, Travis Etienne is questionable for the rest of the game with whatever. Because we were wondering why he wasn't in the game, and they had Snoop Connor in the game, remember? And then they had Hasty, and the game was still trying to be won. And I'm like, what are they doing? So I asked somebody, where's Etienne? And as soon as I said it, I think I said it to, I think I asked Cole Pepper. And as soon as I did that, what happened was they made that announcement. Well, as soon as they made that announcement, the Jaguars broke the huddle, and Travis Etienne was in the game. And I said, and I looked at Cole, and I said, he said, that's the quickest recovery I've ever seen. Because normally when you get that a guy is questionable to return, usually they don't come back when you hear that. So it's like the information is constantly being poured in, and people are talking, not amongst each other as much, but that's what was going on. But when I saw that, I said, I'm going to remember to tell people that that dude was hurt and he came back into that game when people don't usually come back into the game. But with Walker Little, when he came in, I watched him because when they broke the huddle, there was some question because Juwan Taylor, we'd had that announcement earlier about him. We were wondering, okay, who they going to play? And I looked out there and I said, I think I see Van Lannen in the game. Maybe they're going to run Van Lannen at right tackle, right? But I think he was playing guard. And so when they broke the huddle, I go, I know what the Cowboys are going to do. Find Michael Parsons. They're going to put Michael Parsons right there where Walker Little. And sure enough, Michael Parsons lined up at right defensive end. And I said, oh, God. But they chipped him with a running back. They chipped him with a tight end. But a couple of times, Walker Little went one-on-one and held his own against the guy that everybody, I even said he's top 5 player in the league right now on the defensive side of the ball. So from the perspective of, okay, what did we see? He didn't look bad. And Trevor didn't make a bunch of quick throws all the time either. Some of the throws were 5-step drops where he had to get the ball down the field because they only had one timeout and they were lacking in time. So sometimes Trevor had to wait until his guys came open. And the good news here is that Walker Little held his own when Trevor had to do it. So moving forward, I think there's room and reason to be encouraged that he's going to be just fine. I'm going to tell you more about this, and then I'm going to talk about the long and short-term ramifications of him playing down the stretch. I'm going to do all of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored by Ultimate Football GM, and I am really geeked out by our new partner and sponsor for today's episode, the mobile game Ultimate Football GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NFL GM and managing your football franchise? Yes, because y'all sit here and tell me what I'm supposed to be thinking all the time. Well, your dream can come true, and this game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. You are responsible for hiring the right coaches and coordinators, trading players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft, and all the ups and downs of a season. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. Now, I know everybody thinks that they know how to be a GM, but this is the time you get a chance to prove it. Instead of fussing and arguing with me about what teams should do, you do it and show me exactly what you're working with. Locked On Jaguars listeners get a 100% free bonus to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On. All caps now, Locked On. In the game store, and it's one word, Locked On. That's Locked On, all caps, one word, so make sure to check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the app stores. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. Don't be waiting, man. Start your dynasty today. Today's episode is brought to you by Turo. It's pronounced Taro, but it's spelled Turo. And it is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Taro, you can book any car you want wherever you want it from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, Canada, UK, and Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. You can test drive that new electric vehicle, the one with the doors that pops up on the side. If you had your eye on that for a while, and you want to see how it fits your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. Turo.com. And I'm TWIGG, and you can find me here every day on Locked On Jaguars, sitting here talking about Jacksonville and their football team because, well, it's your team every day. We thank you always for making us your first listen. We talked a little about Walker Little and how he played when he came into the game for the injured Cam Robinson just the other day. Now, let's have this discussion that we've had a little bit about the future of the right and left tackle positions. Jawan Taylor's a free agent this year. Cam Robinson is in the first year of a 3-year extension. And Walker Little is a second-round pick who doesn't play very much because, well, those other two guys are better, right? And we were wondering just how good he was. And this is a little bit, all right, I'm going to give it to you. I wanted to trade him for Chase Claypool, right? Because I wanted to give Trevor Lawrence another big, tall weapon, right? And folks told me they wouldn't have done it. They were absolutely, I was crazy because I'm trading the depth away. My thing was I was always looking at the big picture because I want the Jaguars to re-sign Jawan Taylor. I just don't think you let go of guys who have career years when they're 24 years old and they're 6'5", 325 pounds. I think you keep guys like that, right? Instead of wondering what you have in Walker Little and hoping and wishing and praying that he turns out to be as good as the guy you let walk out of the door. No pun intended when I say he walked out of the door, right? But you now get a chance to take a real hard look at Walker Little to see if he's worth letting that other guy walk out of the door. And even though he's not playing right tackle, he's playing left tackle. But he can play right tackle. But now you want to see exactly what you got, right? And you're doing it because you have to, and not just necessarily doing it because, okay, let's sit this guy down and watch this dude. The sort of way that you heard back in the day, it seemed like they did when they had Taven Bryan and they benched Malik Jackson and took out Yannick Ngakoue, and a fight broke out because they were like, y'all ain't trying to win. Y'all just trying to see if this guy's ready for. You don't have to. This is not an experimentation type thing. This is a necessity type thing where he has to play. And if the Jaguars are going to fulfill their dreams for this season, he has to play well. And if he doesn't, y'all going to see it right front and center. And then you're going to have the answer to the question that we were talking about. I hope for his sake he's good, for one. So far, so good. I hope for his sake he shows that, well, they need to keep him around. Doesn't mean they're going to let Jawan Taylor walk out of the door, because I still think you have to independently look at that. But what it could mean is Cam might have to fight for his job next year when he comes back in here, and this kid ain't going to just give it up. And then you really do have a trade piece, and then you'll be in the offseason where you can now address backups. You can get a veteran guy or go in the third or fourth round and get a developmental dude, just like Walker Little has sort of been, and redo all of that, and then get something for one of your two guys. There's nothing wrong with having – that's a good problem to have when you have multiple guys who know how to play, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Roll with it. But you're going to get the answer to that question and those questions, and then the Jaguars are going to have to make a decision based on performance as opposed to making those decisions based on guesswork and the behind-the-scenes stuff. And it's really, really hard to, even though they do it all the time, guy, if you trust the dude and you say, okay, in my opinion, he's ready, you still want to have that tape and you want to know exactly where he is. The term that everybody always uses is you want to see what you got. You want to see what you have. You know what I'm saying? Well, now you're going to get to see it. And now you'll make an informed decision on how you want to move. Maybe you keep all three moving forward, and then You just still let Walker Little be your swing guy. He's under contract for another 2 years. And then you don't make a decision right now that you don't have to make because you're not paying him a whole bunch. If he's really good and he can play both positions, well, now you got a guy who can play both positions, is a starter caliber at both positions, that you're only paying second round money as opposed to paying him big time money. And you're going to leave it right there. And it's a luxury that you can have for the next 2 seasons if you re-sign Juwan Taylor. But at the very least, you get the chance to see exactly what it is. You get the chance for other people to see what it is. And maybe if Cam Robinson gets healthy, Walker Little plays well, he has 2 years under his contract, and somebody comes dangling one of those draft picks where you're not going, if he's good, you're not going to take a second because you picked him with a second. Somebody needs a left tackle, and there's no left tackle in the middle of that first round, and somebody comes dangling, hey, man, we got this first round pick. See, this is where the leverage comes in. So this is why this is a really, really good thing. The main thing is, too, also, you want him to be able to play well down the stretch because you want to see if Jacksonville can achieve their goals. So those are the long and short-term feelings about it. You want them to play well because you want the Jaguars to win, but long-term, you also want them to play well because it gives you depth, it gives you currency. It blows my, it gives you flexibility to what you want to do on the other side. If your money starts getting tight in the offseason with Juwan, maybe tag and trade or re-sign, whatever. If you have 3 capable guys, that is a good thing for this football team. I'm going to tell you why I would rather face Zack Wilson than Mike White. Okay, I'll tell you right now. Because I think the Jets would rather Mike White play than Zack Wilson. And whatever they want, I want the other thing, okay? Whatever they are most comfortable with, I want to make them uncomfortable. That's the way this kind of works, right? It kind of works that way, that whatever your ops wants, you want the total opposite because they're ops and ops. I keep doing stuff like that. Let me tell you something. Check back with me in just a second here in the third segment here on Locked On Jaguars, and I'll explain all of that foolishness to you. Right now, I got to let you know that today's sponsor is PrizePicks.com. That's right, PrizePicks. I don't know about you, man, but I'm into my daily fantasy sports, and I'm really into the ones where I don't have to worry about somebody on the text line talking smack to me because they're in my league. It's just me and the computer. There's not no other human being on the other line with all of their issues and all of their petty chatter. This is all about daily fantasy, where there are entries and player projections placed on those entries, and then you have to decide if PrizePicks knows what they're talking about by going more or less. Now, you have to pick at least 2 players. You pick up to 5 players, but you pick at least 2. If you get 5 of them right, you get up to 10 times your money, man. And I'm telling you, I love me some 10-1 odds when you're going to give them to me, right? So you got that Thursday game coming up. Trevor's been hot as fish grease. It's going to be a little cold in New York, right? They're going to assess a number to Trevor Lawrence. You got to ask yourself if he'll go over or under that number, and then pick another partner and do the exact same thing. And then it's more or less. That's right. It's more or less, not over and under. It's more or less than that number. And then what you do is you'll figure out or find out if they're going to go, and you can track it while it's playing. You can see exactly where they are and if they're going to get to the threshold that you either went more or less with. Now, what you do is go to prizepicks.com, and on your initial sign up, if you haven't already, which you should have, but if you haven't already signed up on your initial signed up, if you use the promo code Locked On, that is one word, you'll get a 100% deposit match of up to $100. If you put in 100, they give you 100. If you put in 50, they'll give you a 50. But that is on your initial first-time sign-up at prizepicks.com. You can go to prizepicks.com on your computer or use the app in the App Store, and make sure you download the app and ride out, man. It takes you less than 60 seconds to put your entries in, and it don't take them long, much longer than that if you win, for them to put the money in your account, and they're easy withdrawal methods to be able to get it. Make sure you go to prizepicks.com and get the 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit with the promo code Locked On. And remember, it's more or less on PrizePicks. Ain't nothing but a little more of me here in the third and final segment on Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you make Locked On Sports Today your second listen of the day after you make me your first listen. Tony Wiggins, I've covered this team now for over 13 years. I used to say almost 13, but it's over 13. And It's exciting, an exciting time around here. And, there's some other sports and things where it's really, really exciting. Like I was on Locked On Sports today just this week because I can always tell when something's going good for the Jaguars because Peter Bukowski gives me a call and I have to do a segment on Locked On Sports today. But they really will catch you up on all the things from around the world of sports with the local experts. And it's a power-packed, less than 30-minute show that's get your day started real, real good. So make it your second listen. I'm your first listen here, and I'm not going to be the first one to tell you this, but I would rather play Zack Wilson than Mike White. And not because Zack Wilson and Trevor Lawrence were picked 1 and 2 in the draft, and it's always fun to compare and contrast, especially when your guy's playing well and their guy isn't. But I'm not really a sentimental storylines guy, so what I am is I want him to play because I think it gives the Jags the best chance to win. I actually think the other kid, Mike White, is more dangerous. And one of the reasons I think that is because I think his own teammates believe that because they had like some shirts made in Mike White. We believe in Mike White, or in Mike White we trust, or whatever. That's got to hit. That got to hit you. That's got to hit you below the belt if you Zack Wilson, man. You got dudes right here wearing the other dude T-shirts with this dude face on it. And he ain't dead. He's alive. This ain't them RIP shirts you see from the flea market. This dude's alive. He's right over there. And he took your job, and your teammates got a shirt on with his face on it. Like a shot of liquor. It had to hurt, right? Man, that tells me that they believe in that guy. They play hard for that guy. Probably the same way the Taylor Heineke people in Washington, they prefer him than the other guy, Carson Wentz. It's just something about that, man, that makes me think that if Mike White is playing Thursday, that those guys are going to play harder and go out of their way to play for him. And even the rookie receiver even made some comments about, how things just go much better when the other guy's in the game. So we don't want the Jets to have any level of comfort come this week. We want boos. I don't care about the ability to make big plays and scrambles. Last year against the Jaguars, that kid scrambled, and I still don't know what Ford was, the safety that was here. I still don't know what he was doing instead of tackling. I mean, you guys who are Jaguar fans know exactly what I'm talking about. But, yeah, man, so we'd rather see that back up. So let's just hope. I don't want anybody to be sick or hurt. Let's just hope that for the sake of Mike White, that the Jets think that he needs more time. Give him more time to heal. We want to make sure they're good down the stretch and play that kid. That kid, that little handsome boy that, well, I ain't going to talk about what he did with his mama's friends, but I just did. But, yeah, we want to play him. We want to play Zack Wilson. Make sure you tune in now. We got a crossover coming Thursday. We'll have a postcast after the game. We'll have a recap on Friday. But then tomorrow, man, we're going to review some stuff. We're going to take a look at, on the Wednesday show, we're going to take a look at players that can have a huge impact in this game. Some of our key matchups. We'll give a sort of a pre-crossover show, but it would just be me. It would be me, nobody else. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. You guys make sure you take care of each other. Make sure you keep tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. It's Tony Wiggins, man. Take care of each other, and we'll see you tomorrow here on Locked On Jaguars.